Okay, everybody, we're going to get started on page 2 and 3, and I've got these just roughly laid out, and I'm going to go ahead and sit down and get started. I had to shuffle some papers around. I changed my mind on a few things, but I think I'm ready. So we're going to have basically the pocket page is underneath here, and I'm going to do some color blocking so I don't just have a solid sheet, and then I've got a couple of flaps that are going to lay on top. And I'm just double checking how they were cut apart. I didn't know if they were side by side. They're not. So we're going to focus on page 2. I'm going to set page 3 aside. So it's going to go in like this. And so one of the things I was doing while I brought everything in, I was kind of stalling, is trying to decide if I wanted to install my flaps on the edge or if they're going to be insert or inlaid directly on the mat. And I've decided I want them inlaid on the mat. So here comes the challenging part, is trying to figure out where all my magnets are going to be, because I need to know that before I glue down my mats. So I'm going to sit down, and I know these are going to be inset, so I can go ahead and lay down this small piece, and the likelihood is that the magnet's going to be, in all likelihood, it's going to be on top here and on here, but I'm not positive. But I know it won't be over here. So let's go ahead and lay this down. And there's a gnat in here driving me crazy. So I had mentioned in my last video, it's still raining here in San Diego. It's that's a long time for us. We don't usually get days and days of rain. But the reason I mention it is because I'm home alone. Well, not exactly. My dog is here, but she is feeling very much cabin fever. So she's been very needy. So I might have to stop off and on throughout this video to go tend to her. She's not getting her normal exercise because I'm too old to walk in the rain. I just can't do it. I get home and I'm cold for hours afterwards. So she's struggling with that. But I may have to stop, like I said, off and on just to go entertain her for a little while. Okay, so that's in. So that's one small step toward finishing our design. So I do know that I am going to install this here, and I got to think about this for a second. I really don't think there'll be a magnet under it. I really don't. So I'm going to go ahead in the meantime and adhere this ephemera journaling card to its flap, because I know it is definitely going to open this way, and this is the flap that's going to hold these other horizontal flaps in place. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on. So I trimmed this black piece out ahead of time, and I just did 4x6. All 3 of these are 4x6. That's not true. That is not true. This is 4.5 by 6 because it's got that 1/2 inch hinge. These 2 are 4 by 6.5. That's not true either. Stop, start over. Okay. 6.5 by 4. You're gonna have one of those. Then you're also gonna have one 4.5 by 6. So it just means the hinges are on different sides. So you're gonna have one vertical, one horizontal, and then we're going to do a full bifold card, and that's going to be the bottom layer. And this is 8 by 6, and you're going to score it at 4, so it winds up being a 4 by 6 finished bifold card. And we're going to install one of these on here. Anyways, the whole point I was trying to make before I got sidetracked with all my measurements is I trimmed this out for a finished 4 by 6, and the ephemera cards are not quite 4 by 6. So usually I trim my cardstock to match this perfectly, but I'm going to go ahead and trim this down. So there's a little purple border on one side. I'm going to shave that off and shave it off the bottom, and then it should fit on here perfectly. And if you look closely, you can see that purple border when I'm done. It'll be gone, and it should fit 4 by 6 with a nice, beautiful 16th inch border. I'll move this so you can get a better look. And there we go. So that's just right. So basically, if you look at these ephemera cards, you can see when they print it, there's a partial frame around one of the sides, one of the 2 sides. And I just trim that off and it fits perfect. Okay, that's all. Or you can make your flap to fit the ephemera card. in which case it would be like 4 1/16 by 6 1/16 plus your 1/2 inch for whichever direction the hinge is going to be on. Hopefully I'm not confusing you guys. I feel like I'm talking in circles. Too much coffee. Okay, come on. I need to go get that new bottle of glue. All right, so part of the reason I'm laying this down, it doesn't have to go in this order, but I like to get down any loose pieces as quickly as possible. So I'm not rethinking my design, because when I don't have them glued down, I keep flipping them back and forth and changing my mind about what goes up and what goes down. And typically if I make one change, it's kind of cascading. Other things need to change. If I change anything on page 2, I'm likely to need to change something on page 3. So I want to glue it down and get myself committed so I can stop that in its tracks. Okay, let's get some tape on this. And that's fine when you're, you know, home and you're designing. I mean, that's hard. That's part of the fun of it. But I typically feel like I'm needing to get content out, so I can't spend that much time on it. Waste is not the right word, but I'm generally already looking forward to whatever the next project is. Okay, so as you can see, this fits perfectly and I've got my border, but what I really want is a nice slice of black right through here to sort of amplify the color blocking. So I'm going to take off a 1/16 of an inch, and that is going to do it, I think. I think that'll give us the look we're looking for. Okay. Or at least the look I'm looking for. Yes, and there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this, and then we can lay it down, because I'm not going to put a magnet under it. Okay, that's in. So that is the base of our pocket page. These are non-functioning, it's just color blocking. So then we're going to have this bifold card, and it's going to get glued down on 3 of the 4 sides so that there's a tuck spot behind it. So now I'm just looking for placement. So I'm going to get my pencil out. And I know this is going to come in and hold everything closed. And this is going to be a flap, like so. So I'm thinking that's what it's going to look like. Yeah. Yep. And then I might have like a little something peeking out from behind here, which would be the tag. So because of that, I'm going to, instead of centering it, I'm going to push it down a little bit lower because there might be something that I tuck inside there. So I'm going to put in a couple of reference points. And I'm going to line it up on my grid. And it looks like I'm going to come in about 3/4 of an inch to install the outside flap. It's a half, there's 3/4. Okay, so we've got our tape on here, so we can go ahead and lay this one down. Now, alternatively, I'm just gonna lay it right on top, and part of that is because I'm trying to get content out. For those of you that are taking your time and want to hide this hinge, what you can do is slice this with an X-Acto knife and then tuck your Of course, you can't do that after it's glued down. Prior to gluing it down, you could slice this with an X-Acto knife and tuck your hinge in behind it, which is a very beautiful look. I like it, but it's very difficult and time consuming. So that's one of the reasons I don't usually do it. But I like the look. Okay, I'm going to use my ruler and just make sure I'm not drifting up or down. And I am, nope, I'm underneath it. That looks pretty darn straight. Yep, so you can see this line right here. It's perfect, perfectly lined up with the edge of the paper, and that's what I was just looking for, equal distance from this hinge to the edge. Okay, so we've made that placement. So what I am gonna do though is when I trim out the piece that goes on the inside, I'm gonna trim it out wide enough to fit the whole black cardstock, and then I'm gonna trim off that edge and tape it down so it's less obvious. That's what I'm planning on doing. I don't usually do that either, but I think it goes a long way to hiding that, and it looks pretty. Okay, so this one I'm planning on butting up to the inside of this card, like so. And I think I'm doing the yellow here, but I'm not sure. And then this is gonna slightly stagger and be installed like so. So that is the current plan. So I'm just gonna fuss with these for a few minutes and get a line in over here so that I know where I'm installing this flap. It's easy for the bifold one's gonna be easy because it's gonna butt right up against the existing flap. Sorry. That is my dog. Like I said, she may need some attention here in a minute. Okay. Okay, I'm liking that. So I'm going to put a little line down here. And then a line right here, so I know I need to line this corner up. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. Floating hinges look pretty, but they are a little fussy. Okay, so that's in. So let's go ahead and get some tape on the back of this. I'm going to install the flap before I cover it because, again, we're still trying to figure out what we're doing with magnets. On my glue, so I'm not going to do that for a few minutes. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler as a guide. And I lost my pencil mark on the top. I don't see it. Oh, now I see it. I see it now. Okay, so that's in. There we go. And again, this is going to close like so. And then here's our last piece, which is going to go in like so. Now, before I do that, like so, I mean, before I do that, I want to go ahead and cover this strip. So let's figure out what we're doing there. And then also, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. This one won't be covered, so I don't have to worry about that right now. Magnets. Okay, so I think it's, yeah, we can definitely do our magnets right now. I'm gonna go get my fat tape. I'll be right back. Okay, I went and I got my nice wide tape, which will cover the whole magnet, which will soften the edges, which I like to do. And then I also remembered that I'm just about out of glue, so I went and got a new glue container. And I should talk to Julie before I finish filming today so I can let you know when we're gonna start selling the the art glitter glue again. We have to stop selling it during the cold months per the manufacturer. And I think we're coming on when we can actually start selling them again. But more information. And if you're a subscriber to our website, I will send an announcement via email when it's back up for sale. If you're not a subscriber, why aren't you a subscriber? Subscribe, and a couple things. One, we will let you know when new collections are coming out and available for pre-order. We do that via email from our website, and we can also let you know of any other specials or things that are happening, like our retreat. And the last thing is, like, when things are back in stock. So when we sell out of something popular, when we get it back in stock, if you are on our subscriber list, we'll send a quick note out, and I don't make them verbose. It's just usually a picture and one line that says it's back in stock. So it's very easy for you to look at and delete and not, you know, have to spend a lot of time focused on it. I know everybody's got lots of things to do, and you don't need to sit and read a paragraph about something being back in stock. And then usually there'll be a link back to whatever that product is. So again, that's usually stuff that's either really popular and selling out quick, and we just want to let you know it's back in stock, or like our art glitter glue when it's back for sale again, because the temperatures have changed such that we can, again, put it available for shipping in our shop. Okay, so I've kind of I'm rethinking the placement on the top one. Do I want to cover this? And I think I do. So I'm going to, the next thing I'm going to do is locate what I'm going to cover this with, run that strip down, and then we can place this piece. Okay, so I've got all my papers here, so it'll just take a second. So I know I've got, this is my A side, and so when you open it up, this is what you're going to see. So I want whatever these two are to match with this. And that's a lot of purple, I know. That's from the 8x8, by the way, that I've just pulled in. And I kind of, oh, that's going to be on the top side already. And that was, you can see the scale difference. That's 12x12. This is the 8x8. So this is going to be on this side, so I don't want it on both sides. So I'm going to pick something different. I'm going to try to pick something different. This works. And this is pretty typical, guys, just sort of flipping through, trying to make a decision on what to do. I haven't used this pattern anywhere, and it's because there's always one that I'm just not that fond of, and that's it for this collection. So it'll get used, but it'll be probably in a very small space. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with this green. What do you guys think? I like it. Okay, I'm gonna go with green, and then I might add a border strip or something to break it up a little bit. So again, like I had mentioned, I'm going to measure the entire width and then try to trim off a strip to cover this. I don't usually do that, but I'm going to do it in this case because I'd like to see how it looks, but I also want to show you guys how to do it. All right, so we know that this is 4x6 up to the hinge. So this is, I'm sorry, 4 inches to the hinge, and it's 4.5 if you include the hinge. But I'm just going to put a little tick mark and strip this down, and then what I'm gonna do, the next thing I'll do is cut this little strip off the large piece first, because it'll be easier to handle. And we know this is a 1/2 inch, because that's where we scored it. But we also know that when you score, you lose a tiny bit of that 1/2 inch to the score line itself. And it looks like maybe a 32nd of an inch. So if I trimmed out a 1/2 inch, it's going to be too wide. So it needs to be something less than that. So let's get the big piece down, and then we'll try to figure out what that's going to be. I said down, but I meant trim. Okay. So here's the piece we're going to work with. And I know this is 6 inches, so I'm going to want this to be 5 7/8. 5 7/8, and that way I've got my 16th inch border. And again, I'll talk through these measurements, but I don't list them because different people like different borders, which means you need to trim your paper accordingly. All right, so let's see. I think I'm gonna want to trim this right about here. And you need to be clear when you're running this strip, it has to be out of the hinge or your flap won't lay down. It will, it'll want to buckle. Let's see, what did I do? We're gonna try this, hopefully it's right. It looks like I did 3/8. 3/8 of an inch is what I did. And I think that's gonna work. 3/8, which happens to be the same width as the tape we use. So funny how that worked out, huh? So 3/8 of an inch looks like it's gonna work here, and then I'll trim this out to fit as soon as I lay down this strip. And you could dig around, you might actually have a 3/8 inch strip and not have to cut one specifically for this, but I want it to match, so the pattern is going to be continuous. It'll just be a little split with black in between. And it is time to change my glue. Or can I get one more, a minute or two out of this? I might. It's mostly waiting for it to get down to the bottom. There are words on here, so I'm just making sure the orientation is right. It is. And it's closing, that's all good. Okay, so now we have this piece that's gonna go here. And you can see I need to trim a little off, which we'll do right now. Perfect. I'm gonna hold it in place, make sure it's gonna fold and close. Okay, if it gets hung up in that hinge, it's gonna wanna peel your, fold your paper back on itself. So make sure you're clear of that. You can fix it after you glue it down. It's really difficult. I would use a X-Acto knife and try to come through and trim it. It's a hard thing to do, but it can be done. Because if you glue it down, it just keeps wanting to pull it back up. And what happens when you glue it back down is it won't pull up the whole thing. It'll start actually splitting the paper and exposing the white center core. All right, so did I do that right? Nope. You know what? It's this piece that needs to be trimmed down, I think. I trimmed a piece off, but it's not matching. Oh, there it is. It is matching. Okay, I had it upside down. So when I say matching, I mean the pattern wasn't continuing. I had put it in upside down initially. So that was a good catch. Okay, so it's all good. Just burnishing to make sure that tape is good and down on the magnet. And it is. Okay, again, a reminder, we're on page 2. Okay, so I like it. So again, you can do this. You can leave it exposed as well. And then also, if you don't glue down this pattern paper, you can do a slit and run the hinge behind it so that you just see this continuous purple. But I'm pretty happy with that. And this is significantly easier to accomplish in my mind. You really got to be precise about putting your slice in, because if you get it at an angle and you go to install this, it's very obvious. So this is my preferred method. I can go a little bit faster when I do this. Okay, so this is going to be here, and we can wait on that too. So now we've got our bifold card, and this is 8 by 6, and it's scored in half. And typically what I do is I make it a little bit bigger than 8, fold it in half, and then trim down this edge once it's folded, so you get this perfect clean edge. Anyways, this is gonna go here. This is why I wanted to lay this down first, is it is gonna overlap here. So now I'm just going to look and make sure I get the stagger where I want it. And I'll draw a quick reference line. And then we will go ahead and glue in the yellow one, the bifold card. And I like that. I think that makes a nice, neat stair step here. Okay. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to put just a little dot here and use that and my ruler to get a straight line for the card piece. So I'm turning it over. And of course, when I did, I lost sight of my, there it is, my pencil mark, which is very faint. Okay, so I know this is roughly where I want it, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my ruler. Oops, I got glue on it. And, sorry about that. I'm not setting my glue up right because it's taking too long for it to cascade back down. And it's making a mess. Ah, I lost my... I lost my reference line again. Okay, let's just close it all and see what it looks like. It's a little too high. Looks, yeah, that's where it was. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm gonna draw a line here. And then I'm just gonna measure both ends of that to make sure it's going straight. And it is, so I'm good with that. So now I'm going to turn everything right side up again. There's my line. There's the top, which is where I want my pocket. So I'm going to just run a bead of glue around 3 of the 4 sides. Okay. Okay, that should be good. There we go. I'm liking it. Okay, so that's in. And you can see there's a slight strip of green here, and that's because I don't want this to get hung up in the hinge. And I've still got more paper to put on top of this, so I wanted to give it plenty of room to close. Okay, so speaking of paper, what is planned for this, I think, is the yellow, but we're gonna look at it real quick and make a decision, a final decision on what's up and what's down. That's one. And that's 2. And I definitely like the yellow inside. Okay, so let's see. Looks like it's pretty close to being trimmed out, but I still need to ink it. Okay, so as usual, page 2 is also going to be page 7. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. And whatever you're doing now, you can cut 2 of everything and set it aside for page 7. So here's my last option. And to me, that's just a little too busy. I think I like the solid, and also keeping in mind that we may have something poking out of the pocket here. So I'm gonna put the solid side down, but it's really a preference, so you guys choose what you like. There's my guard dog. Okay, everybody, we're making good progress. Okay, so I know this is my next piece. It's definitely trimmed out for here, but not inked, so let's do that. 12 by 12 pattern, 12 by 12 collection pack. And I know that based on the size of the scale of the print. I don't think I mentioned it, but the green is patterns and solids. So also 12 by 12, but not part of the collection pack, part of the pattern solid pack. All right. I keep picking up the one I haven't opened yet. So if you're new to the channel, and I know we are getting some new subscribers, and we really appreciate it. I am using what's called Art Glitter Glue, which I cannot say enough good things about. I love it. It really takes very little glue. What do I really like about it? Well, one of the things I wish it would dry a little slower so I could move things around, but that's a pretty small price to pay. It doesn't take very much glue, so a bottle will last you quite a long time, and it does not warp your paper, which is, to me, the biggest selling point. And it is permanent and it's flexible. So I have found other glues that over time, the drier they get, the more brittle they get, and they actually at some point just give way, crack and give way. I've not found that with these. I've been doing these mini albums for about 5 years now, and I've never had any failure in the glue. I can also say that about the score tape that I use, which is Score Tape brand. And of course we sell these in our shop, but you know, whether you buy it from us or not, these are the staples that I would highly recommend. The Score Tape does not give out either. I've had other brands let go, and the place that they typically let go in is the spine, because that's where all the weight is. So I highly recommend, even if you want to use Score Tape somewhere else in the book, like on the flat panels where there's not a lot of weight, that's one thing. But when you're putting your book together and you're putting your hinge in, use good tape and use good glue. As a rule of thumb, if it's an interactive component, I use tape, so that the hinges are always going to be taped. The tape remains flexible. It does not dry out and crack. If it's flat, like a mat on top of black cardstock, glue. So those are just general rules of thumb. So the more movement any piece gets, the more it's a better candidate for tape. If it's flat, like this decorative piece on top of the hinge, it's not doing anything. There's no fold here. So glue is what I would recommend. Glue is the cheaper of the two options, but again, I would use tape on anything that has any interactive movement to it. You'll be much happier in the long run. Your projects won't fall apart. Okay, that is it for page 2. So let's go through that. We've got a flap that opens this way, this way. Actually, it's not this. We still got to cover the B-sides. I got ahead of myself. So that's what this is going to look like. And then also we have a pocket here. So we are going to put something inside that pocket. And for the moment, as just a simple reminder, I've got this card-backed mini ephemera card. I'm going to put it right in here to help me remember that I want to showcase something, and I may even want it to peek out a little bit on top of, like so. I haven't decided, but that is one option for this pocket. Okay, let's get some more paper put down. So I'm liking the way this green looks, so I think I want to continue that look over here. And I might, this is the other half of this, I think I might color block something on this side. So let me think about that for a second. Or on this side. And I'm gonna need a minute, so I'm gonna pause here, check on my dog, pick out some paper, and I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, I've found some papers and trimmed them out. I've got them inked, and so I'm ready to lay them down. So what I decided was to carry this pattern over. I've created my little slice, and then I really like this down here, which pulls the yellow back in from the front. I don't have quite enough to go up here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to cover this or if I'm just going to put a trim piece, but for now I'm going to lay these 3 pieces down, and then I may call it quits for page 2 until I work through the rest of the book and see what kind of papers I have left over. So for me, in planning an album, this is the hardest part, is you have to do a certain amount of planning to cover all of your 8 pages just to see how far your paper is going to go. And to me, that's kind of the hardest part, is making sure that you don't run out of coordinating papers before you get to page 8. So sometimes what I'll do is, initially what I do is I come through and I plan all my A sides, and I figure out what my papers are going to look like on the top. And then what's left is what gets allocated to the B sides or the insides of the book. But right now I haven't finished planning the inside of the rest of the pages. So I do know I'm going to have enough green, not this pattern, but other green patterns to sprinkle throughout the rest of the book. But I am going to run out of yellow. So I'm going to try to be careful using up my yellow until I get finished planning the rest of the B-sides. So that's just a process tip for you guys. What I used to do, and it took more time, I think, is I used to figure out the 4 patterns that I was going to use on each page. So I would pick 4 patterns, coordinating patterns, and they would become the papers that I would use for A and B. And so I would set, 4 patterns aside for page 1, page 2, 3, 4, all the way through page 8. And I found that that was taking me a lot longer. So now what I do is I just figure out the patterns for the A side for 1 through 8, and then I come back and figure out the B side for 1 through 8. It's just my process. Everybody does a little bit differently. Some people just design and plan and build 1 page at a time, and you can do that too, but I like to have my patterns pretty evenly distributed throughout the book. I don't like it to be like all purple on the front and say all yellow on the black. So I want to see that those colors distributed throughout the album. And I think when you build 1 page at a time, you can get color lopsided. So that's just my process. Just wanted to give you guys a little heads up on what my thought process is there. And as you're getting more and more advanced and want to start designing your own albums, those are just some things to think about. And the more monochromatic the album, the easier it is. You don't have to worry so much about color distribution. At the end of the day, really all you care about are the 2 pages that are open at the same time. But like I said, I don't want like the first 2 pages or first 4 pages of the album to be purple and then the next 4 pages to be green. I like it to be a little more dispersed than that. Okay, so that is it for now. I'm going to save this strip, and I may do a decorative, maybe even 2 corners so that you could tuck a photo behind it. It depends on how much yellow I have left over at the end of the day, but I'm going to call it finished for now. This is going to close, this closes, this closes. There's our pocket. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of page 2. Page 3 is going to be kind of similar. We're going to do some stacking of flaps which this is not, I haven't done a lot of this. Normally I apply my flaps to the very edges of the page, so it's something a little different. I've done this more, this design is more consistent with how I designed for Stamperia. And part of that is because you get so little paper with Stamperia packs. You only get 10 sheets per pack. So so I don't feel like I can do as fancy of flap designs with Stamperia because I'm going to run out of paper. Even if I buy 2 packs, 20 sheets doesn't go very far for an 8x8 album. All right. Again, thanks everybody for coming to Scrap and Create and sharing your time with us. We appreciate it. The next time I come back, we'll be working on page 3. And it will coordinate, and I'll pull that in so you can take a look at it again. So it is right here, and again, we're going to feature some of the ephemera cards. You can see some repeats of the patterns. Anyways, when I get back, we'll work on that some, and we're making good progress on this album. So I'll be back soon with more. Thanks. Bye.